This is your dose of daily market wisdom with master trader Nick Santiago. Starting from humble beginnings, Nick has been beating the markets for over 2 decades. He shares with you his take on the profitable trades that will have you moving towards financial freedom in no time at all. To see an in-depth review of his track record and much more, go to inthemoneystocks.com.
Welcome, and you are listening to your daily dose of daily market wisdom with master trader Nick Santiago. I'm Kerry Lutz. Today is May 11th, 2020, and this is show number 31. And Nick, oil. We got to talk about oil. We got to talk about the stocks, the sectors we've been following. First, markets have been trading lower today.
Yeah, we opened up a little bit lower today, but remember, we had a pretty good week overall last week. When you look at how the markets finished on Friday, especially going into the dismal job number. So nothing surprising here. You're going to get backing and filling. You're going to get choppiness. This is just, typical ebb and flow stuff. There was some earnings out this morning that, were somewhat notable, but overall, nothing. I don't see anything really horrible here. And in fact, I still see the NASDAQ positive today as we speak. It's up about 9 points, where the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down about 199 points. So that's a positive whenever you see money still going into technology. Now, the leadership in the tech area is a little bit on the thinner side. You have a lot of cloud computing names that are higher. You also have the big FANG names, meaning Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, Google. Those stocks are doing very, very well and continue to do well. But, again, that leadership group still continues in technology. And if we start to see it broadening out like we saw on Friday, that would be a big, big positive. In fact, the financials are still struggling this morning. So that's a little bit of a concern. But if some money starts to rotate into there, that would really alleviate a lot of these pressures. But one thing I want to point out before I forget is that this coming Friday is options expiration. So expect a lot of game playing this week by the institutions. They're going to take stocks that have been strong and are up into the stratosphere. They'll usually pull them back. Stocks that are down in the basement or in the toilet bowl, they'll usually shoot them up. So again, expect a lot of game playing this week. A lot of misdirection days. As long as the volume is light, these institutions can pin stocks to where they need them to be by the end of the week. That takes place every single month when we go into an options expiration.
Yeah, so obviously thinner markets are more susceptible to manipulation, right?
Absolutely, and you see this almost. You could set your watch to it the third Friday of every month. It takes place more so sometimes when you go into a quarter end or something like that, but every month it takes place. And like we always say over here, I always tell my members, let the games begin, because they're going to play a lot of games this week. You'll see lots of levels. Don't get hit perfectly. It's really just a week of game playing.
Yeah, so it's best generally to step aside and let them have their way.
Yeah, or what you do is you just wait for really the most opportune chart pattern, and usually that's going to lead you to the promised land. Outside of that, if you have something that's not really clear, you just stay away from it and let it play itself out. But we see lots and lots of game playing during Options X. We also have earnings coming out, still tons of earnings, even though the so-called sexy companies have already reported. We still get lots of big corporations reporting each and every day.
All right, so now we're looking at oil, and supposedly Saudi Arabia is going to lower their June oil output substantially.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to cut by approximately 1 million barrels a day. This is according to a Reuters article that was released this morning. So crude is up at the moment, it's up about another 40 cents, 42 cents. So again, if they do cut 1 million a day, on top of the 9.7, you're talking about a pretty substantial amount of crude being cut. And then you add in if these economies start to open up. And I went away this weekend for the first time in a while. And I got to tell you, it was busy out there. So lots of cars on the road. The hotel I was staying at was pretty crowded. The beaches were pretty crowded. People are getting back to normal a little bit, or trying to at least. And that bodes well for crude. Crude right now is a pretty strong chart pattern.
Yeah, and I was at a couple of restaurants over the weekend, and the one that I was in was totally packed. It was unbelievable.
And there you go. Well said. I tell you, we went out and I couldn't believe how crowded the hotel was. There was still, I guess, a couple of hotels on the strip that were not open yet, but for the most part, the big hotels were open and they were busy.
Yep, which just goes to show. And the restaurant I was in, they social distance as best they could. I don't think they did it all that well, but whatever. And the fact is that the place was crowded. People weren't wearing face masks or anything. They were just so happy to be out and just trying to resume some normalcy.
Yeah, and I think that's really coming. I know today we had some reports that a flare up in Germany and also South Korea saw some more coronavirus cases. But the reality of it is, I guess that's going to happen. But you know what? You got to go on and live your life. If you don't, you're going to be afraid of everything, afraid of this virus. And guess what's going to happen? The economy is going to sink, and you'll see what a depression feels like. And although I've never felt a real depression in my lifetime, I remember speaking to my grandfather about it and how bad it really was. And I don't think, this spoiled generation really wants to feel that. So, again, you have to open up your economy. You have to get things going again. I look what's going on in some other states that are not doing that. And they're going to be feeling the repercussions for years to come if they don't get started here.
And we see that there's all sorts of lawsuits taking place in places like Michigan, in California. I don't know if you noticed what Elon Musk said to the state, that he was basically moving the headquarters out immediately, and he's probably going to close up his factory. I mean, pretty heavy stuff, all because they won't let him open the factory up in Fairmont now. I think it's Alameda County.
I saw that, I read it, and I actually agree with him 100%. And to be honest, I don't really know how anybody does business in that state. That state's an impossible place to do. It's almost impossible to travel there. I was there a year ago in Laguna Beach. I remember getting my receipt for my hotel. I mean, I think the bill was almost double just on taxes. It's a little bit ridiculous. It's a beautiful state, one of my favorites. But I could never live there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's a great place to visit, but I sure wouldn't want to live there either. And that's just a sign of things to come, because businesses are rebelling around the country, whether they're overly, I guess you would say, restrictive controls still in place, or even in states where they're not so restrictive. Everyone has just said, we've had it, and we're willing to take our chances. And as I sent you an article, in Georgia, the past 2 weeks after they've gone back to work and lifted a large number of restrictions, we're seeing that the incidence of the virus has gone down.
Yeah, that's rather remarkable right there. And that just goes to show you what's going on. I also saw, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist here, but we're seeing some incredible stuff coming across around the globe. I think the Tanzanian government, I was sent this over the weekend by a friend of mine. They actually were testing with the testing people, so-called people. They really weren't using actual people to send in the test. They were just giving them fake names to like fruit and motor oil. Yeah. And things like that, and they were coming back COVID-19 positive. So it's kind of a joke at this stage of the game. What's going on? The shenanigans that are taking place out there.
Yep, and yeah, we're looking at states like Michigan and Pennsylvania is just about in an active state of rebellion. Expect New York State, upstate New York, north of Manhattan. They've had enough. Maine. I mean, all these states are just like, we're not putting up with this anymore, and we have to get back to work. And the fiscal situation that these states find themselves in, with no congressional or federal bailout coming, they almost don't have a choice. They have to reopen.
Yeah, and it's understandable. I mean, you're taking away, not only do we lose civil liberties in every one of these crises, whether it's 9/11 or it's this or what's coming down the pipeline, but you're taking away a person's self-worth, and that's their dignity, and that's really what's most important. This is a country that was founded on freedom, and to see it just dissolve like this is really a concern, at least to me.
Yeah. So I would expect within the next 3 weeks, Nick, we're going to see a complete reopening, especially if nothing happens in Georgia. Then the justification for this whole thing is going to fall by the wayside. It's going to be a case of emperor's, new clothes, that there's no emergency. There's no reason to keep, there might be an emergency, but the lockdown is not achieving its intended result. And either way, whether you open it up or lock it down, you wind up with the same number of cases. That's pretty much what we're seeing. And the seasonal aspects of the virus are now becoming very clear as the incidence really goes down all over. The only reason the number of cases going up is because the testing is going up. Otherwise, probably the number of hospitalizations we've seen in places like Georgia, in Florida, in New York even, all going down. And so that bodes well. So our two open trades here, we got oil, USO, and BP. You still sticking with them?
Oh yeah, BP. The chart looks fine. Those are both options plays too, and we have lots of time on the clock. But the BP pattern is really a very, very good pattern. The USO, I'm not sure how that's going to work out. Obviously, they had a restructure, and I still haven't really even been able to find out what's inside of the USO at this stage of the game. Even with crude oil up today, the USO is actually down 20 cents. But that's a call option, and if it plays out, it plays out. But the reality of it is, I do think oil still has higher price to go from where we are at the moment. Not a whole lot higher, but to get into the low 30s, I think that's very attainable.
Right. And interestingly enough, so based on your anecdotal observations of the weekend of people getting away, going to hotels, restaurants, it looks like the charts were kind of predicting this, weren't they?
Yeah, they were telling us that things would start to reopen, and they would reopen rather quickly. And to tell you the truth, I always, we went out to a couple restaurants, and I always speak to, the waiter, and then the manager came over, and we just have a nice little conversation. I always asked them, pick their brain, and they said the same thing, that we can't believe how fast things are coming back. And this is really the first real weekend that they're opened up, but they've been busy. They said this whole week they've been really, really busy, and people are coming back, supporting all the local businesses, and that's good to see, and we need to see more of it really around the country.
Yeah, could not agree with you more. So besides options, expiration, is there anything else you're looking forward to for this week?
Yeah, this week you want to be a little bit careful, as we mentioned, because of the options X. You're going to get a lot of game playing, especially in the stocks that have been, really, really high on the charts. Others that have been beaten down, they usually will get some kind of a bid. If there are a lot of puts bought in those names, if there are a lot of calls bought in the names, obviously they're going to take them down. That's usually what happens. But I'm also watching Marriott. They reported earnings today, and the stock's down about $4.68. But I really like the chart pattern. As you know, I've been waiting for all these earnings to come out with these hotel stocks. So I'll be looking as we get into the latter part of the week to get into these hotel names. But Marriott reported earnings. I have no idea what they said. I don't even care. I can't think it's going to be a good number. Stock's down about $4.50 right now. It was down a little bit lower, but I love what it's doing on the chart. So again, after anytime a company reports, I like to wait a few days, usually about 3 to 5 days, let the dust settle. But I am looking to pull the trigger on some of these hotel names at this point in time.
Yeah, well, just as an aside, Marriott's earnings, they had net income for the quarter, amazingly enough, 31 million, which is down from 375 million in the year earlier quarter. And hey, the fact that they even made anything. And I can tell you anecdotally from my daughter's experience, she does high-end hospitality, PR, all the companies that canceled out their contracts right when COVID was starting to get, major, most of them are coming back now and signing additional contracts. So this is what the hotels are seeing. And who knows, maybe hotels are a leading indicator.
Yeah, they could be. And in fact, one of the beach, I was in Clearwater Beach this past weekend, and one of the hotels there, which is a publicly traded name, they were actually closed. And I'll tell you, they were losing out because there were people that were looking to book hotels. And I tell you, we were at capacity, the hotel that I stayed at, which was a little bit on a little bit more upscale. It wasn't a cheap place by any stretch. But I couldn't believe how many people are out there, and people are ready to go. They're ready to spend money again. That's what United States economy is about. It's about the consumer. And, I was out there. So I'll be watching these hotel stocks this week. Just about all of them now I was waiting for this Marriott earnings to come and go. They reported today, so I'm on the prowl for them now.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, that's it for today. Make sure you go over, take a look at Nick's site, inthemoneystocks.com, and it'll show you his trading record to date, as well as a lot of other valuable info. And his Twitter feed, 2 Twitter feeds, at ITMS and at Nick Santiago 01. Our Twitter feed is at Kerry Lutz. And of course, email us with your questions or comments, or put them up on the YouTube channel. And the email address is kl@kerrylutz.com. Nick, we will talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you, Kerry.
This is your dose of daily market wisdom with master trader Nick Santiago. Starting from humble beginnings, Nick has been beating the markets for over 2 decades. He shares with you his take on the profitable trades that will have you moving towards financial freedom in no time at all. To see an in-depth review of his track record and much more, go to inthemoneystocks.com.